Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friend.
Hello.
Hello. As always, I am joined by my sensational and just a touch sick and on the mend co-host, Kate Sitarst. Kate, hello.
Hello. If it's nasally, that is why.
You sound like a superstar. Great
Thank
work.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. And Kate and I have the pleasure of being joined by a CCA student, someone who's worked as a copywriter, and someone whose story is just going to be so much fun for all of us to hear. Alba Rodriguez. Hello, Alba. How are you?
Hi, thank you. Good, really good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Thank you
Wow.
so much for joining us today. We're really excited to dig into your full path. And I think probably the place that's always best to start is, like any good story, at the beginning. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and then kind of what led you into copywriting?
Of course. So, as my surname might have led some people to know, I'm Spanish. I'm originally, from Spain. And I just did a degree in English studies because I really like literature. And I thought that the best way to access original content was through the original source. So in English, it was in this case. Because translations are great, but sometimes they're not so great. So that was when, the point of I need to do English started. So after I finished the degree, I went to do a master's in literature, American literature, actually, in the UK. And at this point, I've always wanted to be a writer, but never did I think that it was actually a thing. I thought that, being a writer was pretty much being like broke all the time and like Edgar Allan Poe, and it's a bit haunted and it's a bit miserable, all of that. So I wasn't like really sure I could make it work. So I thought, well, I'll just settle for, being a teacher. So I just went in and started teaching both Spanish and French, although I don't really speak French. So that's another story. But I was teaching both Spanish and French in the UK for like 3 years. And in 2019, I helped a friend of mine with a website he had, because he had a pop-up type restaurant, or well, a pop-up truck type of thing where he would make food. And his website was really sad looking. Like it wasn't really good at all. And I was quite shocked because I thought, well, you're also British. Like, why are you struggling so much with words? And he was like, well, I was never really good with them. And I was like, well, I can then give you a hand and write it and make it look like you want people to come see you as opposed to drive them away. So, any friend of
That's a good idea.
I thought that would be good for business. So, turns out I was right. So I gave him a hand with that, and then socials. And I didn't know at this point what a copywriter was. I hadn't watched Mad Men. I didn't know anything about anything. So I was like, okay, this is something I did. The end. In the meantime, I was writing when I was teaching as well, but it was more poetry, and I got published in a couple of publications in Romania, but it never really, amounted to anything. It was just cool to have my name on an ebook, and that was it. So I was like, okay, so there's no money here whatsoever. And then at this point, I was already kind of like breaking down a bit, because the teaching in the UK the conditions were absolutely hideous. A lot of people were glamorizing the grind in a way that I thought was absolutely wild. I had a person say to me one day, I once painted in the classroom, and that's fine. I just sat down and told the students to like chill. And I was like, yeah, but you shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be normalizing that. So yeah, it was like, because I had to go to work with migraines and like nobody really cared. It was like, well, it's what it is. These kids need you. And I was like, but do they really need to learn Spanish so desperately that I can't really like just lay down and like rest and get better? So at that point, I've been working like 60 plus hour weeks with only one day off, really, because Sundays were for planning and stuff. I was burning out like massively. I was in the UK, away from my family, away from most of my friends. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? And one day I saw on Facebook your Copywriting Academy Facebook ad. And I remember thinking that it was bizarre because I had never really thought, I didn't even know what copywriting was. I didn't understand the word. So I was like, what is this? And it was at a time when the pandemic started to appear. So I already had some experience of remote teaching, of content creation, like in very accessible terms for students and stuff of different levels. And I really liked being at home. Like I didn't really like having to spend half an hour every day putting on makeup and, being like, oh, is my hair all right? Is it too greasy? Am I going to be told off? Because, the clothes that I wanted to wear are in the washing machine, like all of that. I was like, you know what, working from home sounds great. Let's do it. And I got the CCA program in March 2021. That's when I first signed for it. And then in October that year, I was already working as a freelance copywriter for my first project, which is actually quite funny because I remember you saying, Nikki, at first when we were going through the lessons, you saying, oh, like the first project is probably going to like double up the amount that you spend on the course. And I was thinking, yeah, right. Like that's actually a thing. But you actually doubled it up and then a little bit more on the side. And I was like, what is this? So it was also for the European branch of the World Health Organization. So I think, it was pretty intense to begin with because I was thinking, just give me something low stakes. And then these people appeared and they're like, hey, and I was like, no, but then, I did it. So there was that. It was like over a week for a campaign for alcohol awareness in Europe. And I was like terrified throughout the whole process, but I did it. Nobody ever came back to say, this is awful, we hate it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's good news. Like,
yeah, pretty confident that you did a great job.
that's the hope, at least.
Yeah,
But,
pretty sure.
yeah, but it was what I'm not gonna lie, like it was wild at first because the pitching, surprisingly though, I got more replies than I was anticipating because I was obviously following through Facebook, right? And I was terrified because I was thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna send an email and it's gonna disrupt this person's day and they're gonna hate me for it. And this is gonna be the worst thing that happened this week is they got an email from me. And then I just sent an email and then nothing happened. And I was like, oh, that's absolutely fine. But then when they started replying, even if it was to say no, thank you, it was actually nice because it was like, well, thank you for letting me know because at least, I tried, I reached out and you reached back when you really didn't need to because you don't know me. Like I'm nobody for you really. And mostly so in the UK because it doesn't matter how you spin it. I do have a Spanish surname and I'm also really writing services in English, which is also something, that some people might have issues with because it might be like, can you really speak English well enough? But it's like, well, yes, but you need to actually get in and do a really good pitch. But yeah, after that, I got a fair few replies and I got a few meetings with people. Some of them didn't amount to anything, but I was able to meet with them in person and stuff. I sent more proposals that I can count. Not all of them were obviously went through, but for the most part of it, they were absolutely fine. And then I think it was around November 2021. Yeah. So after the European World Health Organization, I got into a contract with a pharmaceutical company that needed a copywriter. Mind you, I hadn't really been doing this for long. Like 2019, I was probably like doing something with copy that I didn't really know what it was. And then this guy just turns out and he's like, oh, I need a writer. You've been really highly recommended by this person here. A person I just pitched and said, no, thank you. So I was like, okay, so the portfolio must be all right then for you guys to think that. And I got a position there as a copywriter. Within 6 months, I was promoted to senior copywriter because they wanted a junior one and they were very happy with the results. So they were like, oh, we'll just get you here so that you can then coach the new person to do best practices because they didn't know best practices. And I was shocked by that because a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, I'm a copywriter. And then you go, okay, so what qualifications you have? Or how do you know that you're doing, a good job? Like how long have you been a copywriter for? How do you measure it? And a lot of people don't even know when you're talking to them about the deep benefits. They don't even know about benefits versus featured. Then I was like, how can you, like, how can you not? Like, it's just very, very easy, very, self-explanatory as well. So I was quite surprised to see that, all the bases that we covered in the course were actually like, not just beginner level, but also intermediate and also even advanced. Like the whole reason why I got the promotion was because I was talking about these things and I was showing them that I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just writing copy and saying, off you go, run with it. This is a draft. It was like, I've chosen this headline because here's the pain, and then, here's the benefit, and here's this and here's that. And I was there for another 8 months as a senior copywriter. And then I moved on to work with a company, an agency, sorry, that was based in Las Vegas. That was wild because it was a 9-hour difference in time zone. So I was having meetings at midnight sometimes. And I was like, do I really want to do that? But I wanted to do it because I've never tried agency life before. A lot of people were talking about how different it was, and how fast paced and how, very challenging and stuff. And I thought, well, I would like to give it a try. It was mostly a content writing gig. So I wasn't absolutely in love with it because it was also for B2B SaaS companies. But eventually it was just between the topic and the mental drainage that I was having from all that. I had to say no to that because it was just too much. And then eventually I got this job in Spain, which is remote, in a B2B SaaS company. And it's been, I'm not going to say it's been chaotic because that's not really the word I want to use, but it's definitely been quite a ride because when I first started, it was just the head of marketing and someone from social media and then me, but they didn't really had any strategy. They didn't really know what they were doing. It was all a bit of a mess. So within the 3 months there, I was promoted again to senior because they just got me as copywriter and full stop. And I was like, okay, well, I think I can bring more to the table than just being here doing this. So I started doing a strategy. I started doing editorial calendars and SEO research and all these things. Looking at metrics as well, which is something that no one had ever looked at before. So I was like, okay. So in that sense, it was really, really good. And I managed to become a senior copywriter. And then this November, they've moved me to product marketer because there was also a lack of feedback with people. I love talking to people. And to be fair, we got another copywriter who's doing an absolute brilliant job. And I was like, well, now I know that this is safe in his hands. Like he can handle it. He's really good. So I'm just focusing more on the whole researching the customers' pain points, talking to them, to both lost clients and the clients that we've got now. But because I didn't really want to let go of the copy, I'm still in charge of email campaigns and social media because that's where I can have the most fun with it. Like we all hate a boring email. So I just, playing around with headlines and with the body of things. And it's the same for LinkedIn as well. Like, you get a bit of resistance sometimes because the board is normally like, middle-aged men who are very deep into engineering or the processes that you're talking about. And they're very focused on one thing and it's not creativity. And when you come out and you're like, you know what, just because we are a B2B SaaS, we don't have to be boring. We can do something else. We can have a different tone of voice. They haven't let me do like anything wild, but at least now I can use emojis on LinkedIn posts. So that's something I'm getting there.
That's a win.
Progress.
That is a win.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, that's pretty much the story.
That's fantastic.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. What I really love is your story is an example of getting started, digging in, and then just seeing where the experiences take you. I mean, I would guess that you probably couldn't have predicted 3 years ago that you would end up being the project manager, marketing product manager at a B2B software company. Isn't that kind of amazing?
It's absolutely wild because I think the best thing that I got out of this course, of course, which is the job that I have now and the ability to do this, is the fact that because of this course, I was able to actually come back home in 2022. I was able to buy my first house and I'm able now to be close to my mom and to the friends that I have that remain in this village. And I even convinced my Irish boyfriend to move in with me. So that's actually really nice because I never thought I could come back home. I always thought that I was just doomed to be in the UK forever because the educational Spanish system is harder. So I wouldn't have been able to, I would have needed a lot of time to be able to make it here as a teacher. But I literally thought that I was just going to die in the UK because it was like, well, I came here 7 years ago and there's really nothing I can do at home. So if it wasn't for these, I wouldn't be here today. So I really have that to thank you for because it means the world to me.
Oh my goodness. Well, you did all the hard work. Goodness gracious. Good for you. Good for your mom must be so thrilled to have
I
you back
know.
again.
Oh my gosh.
She really is, yes. She also told me to send her the link to this video, although she does not speak English. But yeah, I mean, who am I to say no to that?
Of course. Of course. Yes. Hi, Alba's mom. Hola.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, very imperfect, but and congratulations too on buying your house. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Thanks. Yeah. It was quite scary because I didn't really think that this was I don't even know what I thought. I think, to be honest, I don't know what I thought because I didn't really want to have any hopes that things might not work, because there are so many scams out there. There are so many courses that promise the earth and then they don't do anything. And this one, I wasn't even looking for it. It just kind of like found its way to like my Facebook feed, and I was like, okay, I guess there's nothing wrong with just checking it out. And the way it's worked is completely blown my mind. Like, I don't even know. I literally have no idea what I would be doing in the UK if I was still there now, but also I have no desire to find out because I'm sure it wouldn't be great.
I just picture just typical UK weather. And I know the sun shines in the UK sometimes, don't get me wrong, but like Spain versus UK, I just feel like sunshine versus
Yes. And
Yeah.
the
What a
darkness
difference.
as well.
yeah.
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 And being passed out on the floor in a classroom doesn't
Yeah.
also sound very good.
The new normal, apparently.
That's terrible.
I'm curious to hear you, with the first show, which congratulations on, first of all, just taking it and going for it, because I think that would stop a lot of people of like the World Health Organization, like, oh, I'm not ready for it. Or, all of the things that we kick up of like, I'm not ready. I need this first. And then and kind of excuses really that we make for ourselves not to do something because it's a little uncomfortable. So good for you. But I'm curious too of just any advice you can give to folks, because I feel like, while it might not be the World Health Organization that's knocking at all of our doors, I do feel like there are opportunities that come up and maybe we don't recognize them as opportunities because we kick up all of those roadblocks for ourselves. So I'm curious what advice you have to people to do the thing, even when you're feeling everything you were feeling with that.
Yeah, I would just say that what you have to do is just say yes and think about the consequences later. Like, if you got an opportunity like that, you can't be waiting until you're ready, because then you're never going to be ready. There is always things that you can do better. There is the copy that you give at the end as well. You can always improve on that. You can be improving. It is a never-ending cycle. It's as long as you're happy with what you think you can bring to the table. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. When I said yes to the World Health Organization, I was watching like the videos back to back, like a mad person, or like doing all I could, taking all the notes I could, like looking up things online and stuff. And when the day arrived, I wasn't feeling ready. I really wasn't. I was talking to two folks from France, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. But it's all about just keeping up a poker face and knowing that you can do it. Because if you couldn't do it, then they wouldn't have gotten you in the first place. And even if you do a terrible, terrible job, all they're going to do is just turn to you and say, look, I'm sorry, the work is not up to our standards. So we're just going to finish this contract now. Like, no one is going to, come to your house and publicly shame you. That you're not going to be on BBC News. No, it's not going to be broadcasted. Like, it's just going to be between you and whoever needs you to do the copy. And the rest of the world really doesn't care if it works or it doesn't work. It's just you and them. So just go and do it and figure things out later. That's what I'd say.
I like that. I like it. Well, and and obviously you did a great job as you were, but I want to emphasize too to CCA students, like, don't forget to reach out for help. If you're working on a project, I think sometimes that new students think, oh, I go to the coaching calls when I'm new, or I work with the coaches when I'm new. But you can bring client work to the coaching calls. You can reach out and work with the clients if and obviously, Alba, you're past this point. But for any students who are listening and thinking, oh my goodness, get help. We are here to support you. We don't and you worked through this and you did an amazing job, and you covered the cost of the program more than twice over with your first project with the World Health Organization. And that was less than 6 months? 6 months after you started copywriting. something like that. Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com. Amazing.
Yeah, it started in March and that was in October. But I would also say that people need to stop thinking of themselves as a burden, because I think it's something that is happening in this course a lot. Like everywhere you see posts, they're almost always apologetic. They're like, "I'm sorry, I've got something here that I'd like you to watch. Just own it. You've done something and you want feedback, and it's fine and it's okay." So it's just about going like, okay, so look, I'm trying to do this, or I've been doing this for so long. Can you give me any pointers? Like if you want to go from point B, from point A, and you just need pointers, then just go and ask for them. Like don't sit there panicking, thinking, "Oh, I wish somebody told me," because no one is going to open your door and say, "I've got all the answers you see," because that would be pretty weird. But you just need to go out and do it yourself. There's people available. Like everybody has time if they want to, and it's not annoying. Like a lot of people has reached out to me to help them with things or talk, and it's not annoying to grab 20 minutes and talk to someone that is trying to do something you can help them with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
such a good point.
Yeah.
I feel like people forget too. I'm like, we're working like Nikki and I are working copywriters. Like just because we say something doesn't mean it's like, well, they're beyond where I am or they're not, like, no, I have a client project I'm working on today. Like I'm in this too. And I think even as we, need maybe less feedback, I still feel like there are times I come to you, Nikki, probably of like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, you just need that community to bounce things off of sometimes. And so use it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also the fact that it's also objective in this job. And I think that people need to understand that it doesn't mean that your job is invalid. It doesn't mean that you're doing bad. It just means that the person that you were talking to, the person that briefed you, maybe had something else in mind, and they can't put it into words, because if they could, then they have probably done it themselves. So if you're trying to really do something and it's not quite up to the standard, it doesn't mean that you need to go and hide under a rock in shame. It just means that you just need to work on that a little bit more, because you didn't quite get it right. And it's fine. It happens to all of us. Like I do ask for feedback sometimes, and I don't even have the words to explain. I just go and say, "This headline sounds a bit clunky. Can you help me with that?" Or "The flow isn't right." And the flow isn't right. I'm sorry, I can't be more specific than that, but the flow isn't right. So you know it when you read it. And people just need to not take things personally. So it's not really about you as a person. Like people really need to leave their personalities or their own egos at the door. Really, like this is a creative job. There isn't right or wrong. It's just a continuity of things that are going to be flowing all the time. And whether somebody agrees or not on the end piece, it is not a reflection of who you are as a person. That's for starters. Like that is never a reflection of who you are as a person, and it shouldn't be. And then how good your skills are with this job. Because at the end of the day, we've got tones of voice for a reason. And it's so that you can leave yourself outside of the door and then become this company that is talking with this voice. And that isn't you anymore. That is somebody else. That's the company. And you're doing the job. So I think maybe visualization would be better or would help in these cases, because it helps me sometimes when I'm like feeling particularly, sometimes I write really good copy and I'm like, "Oh, this is great." And somebody comes and says, "We need to tweak it." And I feel a little bit disappointed. And it's normal. Just sit with it. Be disappointed for a bit. Then move on. Do the edits and move on. It's fine. Like if you really like that copy so much, just do what I do and ask your designer to make it look nice, and then you take that document and you put it in your portfolio, and that's your baby. But that is not what the company wants. So just do what the company wants, or the client in the end. So I think that's something, that people need to take into consideration.
Well, I think that's such a great point, because copywriting it's a collaborative field, and it's creative and it's strategic, but it's not just our writing. It is our writing combined with the feedback and the input of the client. And especially when you're working in-house, it could be multiple people who have who are stakeholders in the process. And it matters to each one of them that the copy be as good as it can possibly be. And that means that there's going to have to be a collaboration, because no one is perfect. And as much as we work so hard to come up with the best copy that we possibly can, there are just going to be things that we don't know or we haven't considered. And that's why we have clients and why we have other team members to help us make our copy even better. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great point.
But yeah, and that's the reason as well why I think that taking some approaches, in the sense that I used to be the type of person at first that would finish my copy work on a doc and then I would send it away without saying anything else. And I realized really quickly why that was a bad idea, because then nobody understood anything. There were loads of comments. Some of them, I'm not going to say they were destructive feedback, because they were just misguided feedback, because they didn't understand why the things that you was writing were on the page. So it's always a matter of presenting things and explaining why you are doing the things you're doing. And that's really what's gotten me through a lot of presentations that I've created for some members of other teams in my current company, where I've known that I've created content that maybe would be intimidating, because maybe you're talking a presentation slide or a slide deck, and maybe there's like 23, 24 slides for a half-an-hour conversation. But it's fine. And I need to sit with them and say, this is going to be fine, because these are just 3 main points and you're going to walk through them and you're going to do it in this specific way, because if not, it doesn't work. They all agreed. Whereas if I would have sent like 23 slides without any context, they would have been like, are you mad? Like, what is this? Like, why are we going to be doing this? So explaining things is always important, not always to show your creative process, because people don't really care about your creative process. They don't really care about how you come up with the idea. They care about why is this idea here and why is it relevant. So keep it short and sweet, because nobody's got time to, hear to somebody ramble on about an idea they had and how they woke up, had a cup of coffee, sat down, opened the laptop. Like, the person care about that. Just why did you write these words and why are they, relevant to this thing right now? So
yeah, I think that's such a great point too, because it can help too when you're presenting your work to just remind people of the purpose of the project, right? Everybody's doing so many different things, and then they sit down in a meeting or they open up a document and they go, But to get everybody back to the same place and say, okay, this is what we can, this is the purpose of this project. This is why we did this. You're going to see this in here for this reason. You're going to see this in here for this reason. It just helps everybody get refocused and get back on the same page, so to speak, and also literally. And could just help the project go so much smoother. So you're so right about that point. Mm-hmm.
I think it's also why you need to set clear expectations from the get-go, because a lot of people seem to not do that. And, whether it's a time frame, whether it's the specific type of assets, the worst thing you can do with this job is to say yes to everything. I'm not going to say that I made a mistake, because I was so burnt out from teaching that I was already with a no in my mouth by default. I was like, no, this doesn't sound like I can do it. But it's just, there is the main reason why people are doing this, why they're taking this course, why they want to transition to copywriting, is because they want to have a more sustainable lifestyle. So that can't mean you are going to be doing exactly the same things you've been doing now, doing something else. Like, you can't be burning out in a different field, because that's not really going to help you do anything. So the expectations, I think, are the main thing to set up firstly for oneself, and see what is it really that you can do this week, and leave ample margin for creative blockage, for unexpected things, for last minute tasks, because they always come. And if they don't come, then that's fantastic. But they are always there. They're just waiting for you to not have time to creep up on you and say, hey, you need to pay attention to me. And that's not really how, you shouldn't be stressed all the time. You shouldn't be worrying all the time. You just need to relax set the expectations. I've got this task to do with the amount of time I've got. Maybe I can do 2 or 3. Don't be scared of like reducing the scope. If you can do it, you can do it. Like if somebody asks you to do 5 blogs and a newsletter, and then they're like, could you put in like a couple emails and maybe, no, I can't. Right now I can't. Even if I can, I can't, because this needs to be discussed in a different conversation. And this isn't really the place for it. So that's the main thing you need to do in this field, is to stand up for yourself, because the problem is that this is very creative. People are going to have opinions. Anybody that is gone through basic education thinks that they can write, and that's not true. And you can tell them that either, because this will be rude. But also people do have some pride. So you can just go to somebody in your company and say, I'm going to do this because you can't do it. That is not the point. The point is this is a specific skill. It's a specific way of writing. And you need to know that writing a LinkedIn campaign isn't just writing, the 5 funny posts that you are having the time of your life with, and it's going to take you 10 minutes, because it's not that. You need to do research. So don't be scared to say no to things and to postpone things and to say, I can take a look at that after X amount of time has passed. Because if we don't do it, then I don't really see what's the point in changing a career. Just, be miserable wherever you are now. You don't need to change to be miserable somewhere else. That's the way.
That's such a good point. It's such a good point of setting better. And it's funny, I had a kickoff call with a client today, and I was like, oh yeah, so, you have seven of these websites, not huge pages, 7 web pages. You need to be like, do you have a hard and fast deadline? She's like, well, no, but if I could see them early next week, that'd be great. And I was like, I almost chuckled, and I had to stop myself. And I was like, yeah, no, that won't happen. I was like, but here's what we can do. I was like, I'll take a look at one, and we'll start there, and then we'll get feedback to make sure we're on the same page for all of the other 6. And then we can discuss deadline for those. How does that sound? And guess what? There was no pushback. It was, of course, a dream list of a client, not, to your point, not an understanding, like, it's not going to take 2 seconds, or like, that I don't have other projects and work going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, but nothing happened. She was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I think just going in, knowing what you need to do your job effectively, people aren't going to be like, and if they do, then you can relook at that. But
every client is going to want work tomorrow,
right?
Which makes sense, right? Like
yeah.
if I could have anything, I would have it tomorrow or today or yesterday, But just because they want it and that would be their ideal scenario doesn't mean that they can get it. Most times it's just not actually possible. Yeah.
Exactly. And there was this thing that someone once said to me, and it was that if everything is urgent, then nothing is really. And that's really the way life goes. Like if you've got a list of priorities, which is longer than your arm, you need to do something about it. And it's not about taking the priorities off. It's about readjusting them, because you're just going to drive yourself mad. But that's the thing, like if anybody is left to their own devices and they're like, I would like copy, then they expect it in the next hour. We can do that because it takes time. You can just, even if just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can just write a 5,000 word blog post in a day, this doesn't mean you should do it, because you need to edit, you need to do an outline. You really need to give the process the time it needs. So it's kind of like, without justifying yourself all the time, because I can't really stand that. Just explain, like, no, I'm sorry, but this is my timeline. It's going to take this amount of time. And if you need it for sooner, then you should have told me first, because your lack of organization is not a problem that I'm about to make mine. It's yours. And so you should do something about it. And there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying to somebody that says, I need this for tomorrow, you should have come to me last week. Then you can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
I let my clients know, my recurring clients know that of, hey, 2 weeks out is usually when I'm booked out. So if you have a project need, it needs to be 2 weeks before, at least at a minimum, depending what it is. And you're like, okay, that makes total sense. Yeah. They don't, it's, again, to your point, communicate the expectation that you have. I think we have it in our heads, and then our clients can't read our minds, just like we can't read theirs.
Exactly. I think I have a feeling that now with ChatGPT and all this madness with AI, however, what ChatGPT gives you is just this absolute trash. You can't do anything. Yeah. You can really trust it as far as you can throw it. Like it's just a bunch of nonsense. Like the fact checking is gone. Like it's great for some things. Like if you want to do an outline, fine. If you want to get a summary of a very long post that you can be bothered to read, get it. But really to write a blog post is impossible. We already all know it. What is it in this ever-changing landscape? We know words from it. We know that it wants to optimize and revolutionize and all these things. So ChatGPT isn't getting you anywhere, but people are expecting you somehow, despite we're humans, to have the same response speed that AI does. And that's just very unreasonable. And the people that expect you to do that, then maybe aren't the clients you need. So just feel free to move on and find people that respect your time and your craft.
Yeah, because there are plenty of clients out there. Plenty. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious in terms of, obviously from where you started to where you are, that path has been a very cool, could never have kind of predicted that where you'd end up in the specific, job title and all of that. But in terms of, I feel like you have described in some ways of just like taking action, taking imperfect action and doing the thing, and despite any hesitancies. And I think that's one of the biggest things I see with both working copywriters, quite frankly, but also people trying to kind of break in of almost being afraid to be imperfect. And I wonder if you could speak to just kind of that idea of, we were kind of talking about it earlier of, it being a subjective field, but just that idea of taking action, even if it's not 100% perfect, and all of the valuable insights you've obviously gained from doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So one of the main things that I think people need to really take into account is that we really aren't that relevant. We really aren't that important. And if we fail in something, like no one is going to really go out and just write it all over the walls of your city, just so that everybody knows that. And this goes from the point of view of even just teaching, right? Something like pitching. A lot of people say, oh, I don't really want to pitch because somebody might reach out and say, yes, but guess what? Out of 20 emails that you send, you might get new responses, 2, 3, 4, 5 at most. And even if you do, they're not responses that are going to grant you that you need there and then to sit down and work and give them something there and then in that call that they're going to be amazed by. Like, you send an email and there is a very big chance that they're not going to respond to you. And again, it's nothing personal. It's just people with the lies, people with the jokes, people forget, people do this, people do that. But if you wait until you got your website done, until you got your craft done, then you'll never do anything. Because at the end of the day, the reality of this is that it doesn't really, the stakes are not that high as people think they are. Like, sure, it's important to do a good job. Of course it's important, but you're already doing a better job than if you went there, or a copywriter that doesn't really have the right tools. Because, even if push came to shove, even if your first email that you sent out, your first page, came back with someone saying, yes to what first? Okay, so you have to have a discovery call because no one is going to say, oh yeah, I want to do this thing you told me about. That's fine. You go, you discuss it. You obviously pitch something that you're confident in. People normally don't check out your portfolio. Like, they might sometimes. I didn't have any of those things when I first started. And I was feeling very conscious about it. And I was not pitching because of that. Because I was like, I'm not ready. I only started in March. I was like, I can't really do this. And then this opportunity came because I kept pitching. Because even though I was terrified, I went there with them and I sent them and I met people and I spoke to them. Even though I knew that probably I was a little bit, too much in my head. Once you start speaking to these people that want to hire you, you realize that they don't know. They don't have a clue of what is it that you do. They don't know enough to say to you, you're not good enough to be here doing this job for me. Because they don't know that. Like, all they know is that you had this idea, you pitched them with, it was good enough to pique their interest. And so they want to listen to you. And that should be enough for you to know that you are needed there. That even if the thing doesn't go through, even if your website isn't perfect, or you're not a great copywriter that has been doing this for 10 years, even if you're not all good, it's fine, it's okay. They want to hear what you have to say. So go and say it, because they're going to be none the wiser whether you've been in this course for 2 weeks or a month or just 3 hours. So you just need to go and do it. And I know that this is very rich coming from me as well, because I've always done like this. So it's not like it's a new skill that I've developed, but you really need to stop taking yourself so seriously as a copywriter and as a freelancer, because the moment you think that all eyes are on you and the stakes are incredibly high, and if you take one small misstep, everything is going to come crumbling down. Then you're never going to move forward. And that's the worst that can happen for you to succeed, because you are your own obstacle, but like really times 100, like you need to let that go, because if not, then you might as well just not have to put all the effort in and all the time in and all the work in to make this work. Because that's the reality of it. You are putting a lot of resources into the CCA in this case, and they are resources that you're doing while you are dealing with your day job, when you're dealing with your life, when you're being a mom, or you're looking after people, or you're doing whatever. But this is extra effort and time that you devote into something. So make sure that it matters to people as much as it does to you. Because if not, then I don't know what anybody would expect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. Fantastic. Alba, this has been so helpful, and so I hope very inspirational for people listening. And I will just say, for one, I am already excited to do a follow-up episode with you and see whether you have grown. Probably you're just going to take over this company eventually. They'll just be promoting you, is my assumption.
No, I'm doing my best, but so far it's all I can do. So yeah, I just hope to keep growing, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've done such a great job of growing thus far and taking action. And it's just very clear in your career success. So congratulations about that.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. And so again, thank you for joining us. This was so much fun. And with that, we will catch you all in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.